Hilchis Malveh V'Loveh Perik Chi. Now we learned there's Ribis Min HaTeira and Ribis Min Rabbanan. Now Ribis Min HaTeira is simple, that he gave him something, and he made up with him that he has to return this type of an item. He gave him money or payers. He has to return him the same amount of money and payers, plus either money or plus payers or plus being able to live in his chotzer. That's considered Ribis Ktsutza, that's Asim Min HaTeira, and it's Yetzer B'Dayon. Then there's Ribis Midrabon. The Yisod of Ribis Midrabon is that he didn't make up, that he's giving him something and that person is going to have to return the item plus. It's like Derech Mekach Memker. But on the other hand, in reality, it seems to be like Ribis. L'mashal, a person buys something from someone that person doesn't really have. He doesn't have this item at all. So he goes ahead and he says, here's money. I'll give you money now. And in a few months from now, I want to have this and this item. I want to have this and this item, and Lepel, you'll give me this item. So really what happened is that person is giving you, you're buying an item from someone, which that person doesn't really have. So you can't really say it's a sale because Lepel, he didn't have it. So what really happened? What happened is that you lent him the money, and Lepel, he's going to provide you this item which is worth more. So it comes that you gave him $100. And you say, I want $100, and I want you to give me a certain amount of wheat in 3 months from now, and in 3 months from now, that wheat is going to be worth $200. So basically, although we never made up a loan over here, I said, I'm giving you $100 for that amount of wheat, for a certain amount of wheat, and that certain amount of wheat then will be worth more. So Memela is al derech ribis. That's called ribis midrabon vak ribis. Now, however, if I actually bought something now, even though Lepel, I'm going to be picking up the stuff later, but Lepel, right now the sale happened, so therefore that's not ribis. I bought it now. So Memela, even though right now when I'm buying it, there's a certain price, I'm paying a certain price for it, which is a cheaper price. And Lepel, I'm not really getting the item until later when it's going to be more expensive, but that's not a problem. Marshall, you have an item. Reuven goes to Shimon and he wants to buy an item from Shimon. Right now, he's buying the item, he's paying $100 for this item. Now, Lepel is telling Shimon, but I don't want you to deliver the item until a few months from now. And in a few months from now, this is going to be worth $200. That's not a problem because Reuven already bought the item from Shimon when he bought it. So there's no shaila of ribis. Now, what happens when a person goes ahead and says that right now I want to buy wheat from you, and Lepel, the question, I'm giving you money and I'm going to take the wheat from you in a few months from now. So over here, there's a difference. If the person has the wheat already, there's nothing to talk about. There's no problem. Because Lepel, since he has the wheat, so I'm buying it from you now. I'm just picking it up later. But if he doesn't have any wheat, so L'chura, there should be a problem. It's a problem of ribis. But on the other hand, we say that if it was already Yotza Hashar, which means there's already a fixed price for wheat, and let's say the fixed price is that you could get 4 saw for a seller, that's what the case the Rambam says, the price is. So right now I go like this, I say like this. I need to have 100 saw of wheat. You don't have 100 saw of wheat. I'm going to give you 25 seller, and I'm buying from you 100 saw of wheat, even though you don't have it. Lepel, in a few months from now, I want you to provide me 100 saw of wheat. Lepel, in a few months from now, it's going to be worth more. I saw L'chura, what's the heter? L'chura, I gave you money, I didn't buy anything, and Lepel, you're going to provide me something which is worth more than the money that I gave you. The answer is because since it's already Yotza Hashar, and it's an item which is already a fixed price, so when I give you the 25 saw seller, you could go ahead right now and buy those 100 saw, they're available, this is a fixed price. So then it's ki'ilu, because we're talking about it's only a din d'Rabbanan anyways. The whole Isser is a din d'Rabbanan. So the Rabban said that in the case of Yotza Hashar, so therefore it's ki'ilu, I already bought these chitim, and mele there's no problem. So again, if the person has the item, so for sure there's no problem. And as the Rambam is going to say, even if he has the item and it's not mamish in the same exact tzir, it's not a finished product yet, it's also not a problem. Masha'inkin, if you don't have the item, so in order for it not to be a problem, is only by Yotza Hashar. That's this din, the first two din. Perik Chi, ein poiskin ala peris, ache Yotza Hashar. You don't make up a price that you're giving a certain amount of money for the payers that he will provide, ache Yotza Hashar, until they became a fixed price on the market. Yotza Hashar, once they became a fixed price on the market, is poiskin, then you could be poisik ala chitim. In other words, you could make up al payers. You can make up a price for how much you're going to pay for the payers that he's going to provide you in the future, because avol pisha ein lazeh yesh lazeh. Ketzeri taichazus. Right now, the price in the market is to buy chitim. You get 4 saw of chitim for a seller. So the din is hareza pesek imei al meya soin. You could go ahead to someone and you say, make up with him that you want to buy from him 100 saw, and you're giving him according to the present market value. And even though this person is going to give you these chitim later on, and at that point in time, the price of chitim is going to be worth more. It's going to be worth a saw b'seller. So it comes that you gave him 25 seller, and lepel he's providing you now with chitim which is worth 100 seller. And l'chur it's because you were waiting for the money. The din is no. Ein bazer ribas klal. Afal pi shleihoye lemecher chitim klal. Even though l'chur the mecher had no chitim, so I lent him, so to speak, money, and lepel now he's paying me back with more. But the answer is because since he was able to get the chitim, it was very easy for him to get the chitim. It was a reyotz ashar. So therefore, afal pi shleihoye lemecher chitim klal beisha pasak. There's no problem with ribas. Now, when would there be a problem of ribis when there wasn't yotz ashar? B'med dvarim amurim that there's a problem of ribis when it's leyotz ashar b'shulihaya klum meisi amin shepasagolov, when the seller didn't have any of this, he didn't have the item that he wants to buy. Avalim hoya lemoicher meisi amin klum. Now, loshin klum sounds like even a certain amount of the item. In other words, he's buying 100 saw and he only had 50 saw. But the Magen Mishnah says clearly that's not the pshat. Means if he had that min that he's selling, and klum means, as the Ram Masum say, that it was lein nigmar malachta. You know, he had part of that item in the sense, not part in kamus, but part in echos. In other words, he had the item, but it wasn't a finished product. Let's go again. That if the seller didn't have anything of that item that he's selling, that's pasuk. That's why the Ram means klum, means it's not completely the finished product because it was adayin lenigmar malachte. So then is areza mutter lifsikol. So then he could make up with him a price. So Lepel can make up with him a price for the item that he's going to give him in the future. For the item he's giving in the future, and he's going to pay according to whatever price they make up now. Even though Lepel, when he's going to get the item in the future, it's going to be worth more, because the seller already had this item. Although he didn't have the item in its state of being finished product, but he already had this item. So it's keilu, the buyer already bought the unfinished product now, and just later on it was finished. His product was finished, and now it's worth more. So, but he bought it, so it's not like he lent him the money and now he's getting reimbursed with more than what he lent. But rather, this is the item that he bought. Ketzat. Hayahut chila lekeitzim. This seller was from the first ones that cut their tvua. Is areza pesik al chitim. He could make up with him the price of chitim. Afal pishadayin godish, even though there's still a pile and they're still in their stalks. They're not yet kernels. So they're not chitim the way they're normally sold. Nevertheless, he could make up with him because Lepel, he already cut the tvua. Upesik alayayin, he could make up the price of wine. Once he harvests the grapes, and he puts it over there in that large container, which you keep the wine to hold the grapes in order to press them for wine, or valashemen, or on oil. Again, you put this. You already put the olives into the matam, which is the keli where the olives get warmer and then they're easier to press. So in other words, you started already the pressing process, even though you don't yet have oil. Or valasid on lime, when you take the racks of the lime and you put it into a kivshon, into the oven where you're going to burn it, and then you're going to have the actual lime to use. So even though you don't really have the lime yet, but you already started the process of getting the lime. If you're selling earthen kalim, when you start making, you take the earthen keli and you start formulating. They make little balls of what the kalim is going to end up being, and then you put it into the oven. That's how it becomes a keli. So l'chura, you started the process of making the first version of this keli, which is you're going to have to formulate and and make into a keli and then put into an oven. But I'll call upon him, since you already started the process, you have already those little eggs, so to speak, which from those eggs they're going to happen the kelim. In other words, you have those the little balls of clay of this cheres. So that's besed. B'medvarim amurim b'shehoya afron lovan. When we're dealing with the kli cheres, which is afron lovan, so that's not so motzui. So then you only have it when it's habeitzim shalem are there. I will offer shocher, but if you're talking about kli cheres, which are made from black earth, is basic al kelim anasim imenu afal pishli nasu. Then you could make up about the kli cheres, even they weren't made, because again, these are things which are very readily available, and therefore it's ki'ilu, you made the sale already. So just like by Yotz Hashar we said before, that Afal Pishain Lezeh Yotz Lezeh, so Al Der Lezeh, but again these things, since it's Afal Pishain Lezeh Yesh Lezeh, so therefore there's no problem. If you're buying from a person zevel's manure, Afal Pishain Lezevel, because again it's something which is Motzi Tamid. So again, the Nekudas Advarim is when you give someone money, and the deal is that person is going to provide you with an item for this money. So obviously, if you buy the item right now, there's no issues. You're giving him an item, you're buying the item. If you're giving him money and you're not taking the item from him, you're not really taking the item from him. So the question is, did you buy the item, or did you just give him money and he's later going to give you the item, which is a payback for this money? And if that item is going to be worth more than the money, so it's a ribis. So that's the shaila, whether it's considered that you gave him the money and you bought something, or you gave him the money and the violet's a loan until he's going to pay you back, and that's called ribis. So that's this then. If it was Yotz Hashar, so then we say that it's considered kilo like it was already a sale. If it was Le Yotz Hashar, but on the other end, this person has the item, even though he doesn't have the item in its full state, he has the item in a not a ready state yet. But Lepel, he already has the item, so it's considered a sale. And then there's certain items which Lepel, even though the pashtus is not a big deal to get, it's easy to get. Let's say if you're talking about a klicheres, which comes from Ofer Shocher, or if we're talking about from Zevel, or we're talking about Zevel, Kol Yimei Sashonis, so it's very easy to buy. So therefore, you go to a person, you give him money, you say, I'm buying from you Zevel, and you'll provide me the Zevel in a month from now. So Lepel, since it's very easy for him to buy the Zevel right now, so it's kilo, he has it, and Mamela, even though in a month from now the Zevel is going to be worth more than he paid for him now, it's not considered ribus. That's the Havanas Advar. Now the question is, how unready is the item? How unready is the item that we're saying? If the item is not ready yet, but nevertheless, since it's already it's in its raw state, it's considered kilo like there was a sale already. So he says, "Kol halacha beis, kol davar shu mechusar melacha achas oishtayim." If it's only missing one stage of work or two stages of work, so then pesach me'olav, then he can make up with him that he's buying the item, even though the item is not finished yet. Still has to happen one thing to it or two things to it. That's fine. However, hayim mechusar shalish. But if the item was missing three stages of work, three sholish malachis, so then ain't a pesach elim ken yotz hashar. So this idea that we're saying that if the moicher has it, but it was le nigmra, nevertheless you could be pesach even if le yotz hashar. That's only when it only needs one or two stages of work in order to become the finished product. But if it needs three stages of work to become the finished product, so then it's not included. Since it's missing three stages of work, is it's as if he doesn't have from this min, as if the Indian didn't come to Godish he had the stalks of wheat, but you still had to put it into the sun, shiyavish, that first it should dry out in the sun, and then the disha, and then you had to thresh it, uzriya, and then you had to winnow. Is eine pesach olav achiyetzi ashar. So then you can't be pesach olav achiyetzi ashar. It's too far. In other words, you're talking about kernels of wheat. Right now it's stalks that still have to be dried, put out in the shemesh and dried, and then they have to go and then be threshed, and then they have to be winnowed. So it's too far. However, hayayavish, it was already dried. And ve'eni mechusar aladisha uzriya, so it's only mechusar two malachas, is pesach olav. Al that is a beitzim shel yetzer. Beitzim shel yetzer. Shahaya mechusarim lefifa v'yivush v'hilacha lekivshan v'sreifa v'hitzah. So it's missing a number of things to do to it. First of all, it had to be like formulated, and you had to formulate it. In other words, you had a little piece of dried out clay, but you have to formulate it. That's the lefifa. Then the yibush has to be dried out, and then you have to bring it to the kivshon, and then you have to actually burn it in the kivshon, and then you have to take it out of the kivshon. All of these, so since there's a number of stages here, is any pesach alein. However, hoyu yiveshim, if these things were already dried out, in other words, the lefifa and the yibush is already done. That's pesach aleim, because that's only two. What about the hitzom and akivshon? So he's saying no. When is it considered only two malachas amixin? If the derech was that the seller provides him with these klicheres, and that person would take it out of the kivshon, so it's not the seller's obligation to take it out of the kivshon, and therefore, from the seller's point of view, he's only missing two malachas. He's missing hilacha lekivshon and also putting it into the kivshon, or sreifa bekivshon. But the meicher has to also be meitzi. So then harele mechusarim shalish. So it comes out he's missing three malachas. So then it won't be pesach aleim ashayetz ashar v'chein kol kiyetz b'zeh. So the nekudas advarim is when you pay money, and lepel, you're not really getting something right now for this money, and you're going to get something else, and that something is worth more. So even though it was done derech mekach or memker, but it is an union of ribus. It's a ribus derabanan, unless it was already yotza ashar. So and you're talking about the shar shel achshav. So therefore, that's considered ki'ilu, he bought it already, because lepel main lezeh yesh lezeh, the seller could get it for this price that you made up. Yotza ashar only helps if you're making up for the shar of now. That's one option. Or if the moicher has the item, but if the moicher has the item, he has to have the item either as is, or even if it's missing something, but it's the most he should be missing is two malachas. Masha'enkin, if it's missing three malachas, in order to reach the stage of what the buyer wants, so it's kilo the moicher doesn't have it, and then it could only be bought from him if he doesn't give it to him right now, and he's going to take from him later if it was yotza ashar. That's this thing. Halacha gimel. Hahoylech lachlev is izov. Person is going to milk his goats, or veligzes es rechelav, or to shear his sheep, or lirdes is kavarti, to take out the honey from his beehive. Umatzi chaveri, and his friend finds him v'amarle. Mashi izai chelves mochelecha, mashi rechelei goizuzois mochelecha, mashi kavarti reida mochelecha. Is a mutter. So right now he's giving him money, and he's not getting anything. But he's going to milk his goats or whatever. He says, listen, I'm not 100% sure how much I'm going to get. Maybe I'll get a lot, maybe I'll get a little. So it's a chance. Could be you'll gain, could be you'll lose, could be you'll get the exact. The pill, if you give me this and this amount of money, so whatever I'm going to get will be yours. So Mele, even though he's giving him money now, and Lepel, he's not getting anything right now. Lepel, he doesn't have anything right now. So Lechuri, you'll say that later on, if he takes more, so he's taking more because Lepel, he was waiting for this money. The answer is no. Because Lepel, there was a chance. It was a chance of losing, a chance of gaining. In other words, he was getting himself into a possibility of gaining more and losing more. So therefore, that's not considered the ribus. Ribus means I give you something, and Lepel, you're going to have to provide me something more, and at that point in time, it's going to be worth more. I don't know how much you're going to provide me. You're going to provide, maybe you'll provide me less, and therefore, that's not considered ribus. However, but if he told him how much he wants of the milk. In other words, I'm gonna my whatever the amount of milk, a certain amount of milk that I'm gonna get from my goats, that's what's sold to you for a certain price. Or and what's talking about over here is giving him right now a reduced rate, because later on when he's going to actually have to sell it, he would have been able to get more. And the only reason why he's reducing the rate now is because Lepel, he wants the money. So basically this person is giving him money, and the violet, the money is lying by him until he actually provides this amount, which is going to be worth the money. So that's usur. Elim kain pasikim mikashar shebeshuk, unless they made up the price that was in the shuk now. But if it's not the price of the shuk now, so basically he's taking for him money, and the deal is that he's going to provide him a certain these products later, and right now he doesn't own those products, and there's no risk involved. There's no risk involved because we know exactly how much of the product he's getting, and he's paying now a discounted price for be'erech of what's going to happen later. So therefore, that's considered ribas. That's al derech peskin. Ein peskin al peres ad sheyetzu ashar. That wouldn't be unless in the case, as we said, when there's a risk. Halacha daled. Ein peskin ashar shel hayoris mipnei she'ein ashar kavua el al shar hamedina. Said it was yotza ashar. At that point in time, you could be peskin and make up that you're giving him this amount of money for this amount of tvua, even though he doesn't have the tvua. But what kind of shar are we talking about? There's a shar hamedina, which is the established price in the Medina, which is a larger area, and then there's a shar ha'ir of that particular city or small city. That's a smaller area, and that price is not necessarily so established. So the price in the Medina, that's the proper price, and the pashtos, that's a stable price. Mashenkin, the price in the Medina is something which fluctuates, and therefore doesn't have that stability. So therefore, that's not really considered yotza ashar. So saying ain't poiskin al shar shel hayoris. You can't be poisik based on the yotza ashar of the shar shel hayoris. It's not such a stable price. Ella al shara Medina, only on the shara Medina. That's din number one. Now hoya hachitin hachadoshes b'Medina arbesoin b'sela, v'yishonis sholish b'sela. Now chadoshes are still fresh, and therefore you have to still wait till they dry out. So therefore they're not worth as much. Mashenkin the yishonis, they're already dry, so they're worth more. So hoya hachitin hachadoshes b'Medina arbesoin b'sela. So they were worth less. So you get arbesoin b'sela. And the older ones, that's shalish b'sela, that you get, it's a more expensive. So then is ein poiskin achiyetze ashar lechodesh yoshan. When you have a matzav where there's a difference between the price of the chodesh and the yoshan, so that's also a raya that's not really a stable price. A stable price is when it comes to a point where this is the price of wheat, regardless if it's yoshan or chodesh. That's when it's considered a shar kavua, and then you could say that it was yotza hashar. Now hoye chitim shelekutis arbesoin b'sela. Lekutis means the poor people that gather leket. So they gather from all different fields, and therefore when they sell their tvua, it's worth less. The lekutis is worth less. So if hoya chitim shel lekutis arbesoin b'sela, or if a regular balabais, when he sells it, it's a higher price, and that's sholish b'sela. So then is poisek lekutis kishar lekutis. In other words, if he's buying from lekutes, from people that gather leket, and since leket is something that they could gather, so he can make up with them a price that they'll provide him with arbesoin b'sela. Now, it's not so clear in the Rambam, but the Magid Mishnah teaches that v'liyifsik balabais for 4. For the balabais, there's the price of 3, and for the lekut is a price of 4. So l'chura, you should be able to be poisik for the shar of the balabais. And so maybe there would be a svara to say that maybe it's not considered kavua, but I'll call upon him. So l'chura you would learn the v'liyifsik balabais even 3. V'liyifsik balabais achiyikva shar balabais, but the Magid Mishnah says not like that. Magid Mishnah says that you could make up 4 for the lekukis, masha'inkin for the balabais. You could be poisik 3. 3 you could be poisik, but you cannot be poisik 4. You have to understand what's the chiddush. L'chura, that's not the shar. That's not the shar of the balabais. So meichatesa, you should be able to be poisik 4. I don't know. Halacha hey, kivin shenik bahashar muter leilifsek al shar hagovea. Whereas once it was nifsek hashar, so at that point in time you're allowed to already buy from him. In other words, give him money al smach that according to the shar of now, that's how much he's going to supply you. As we said, if the shar is let's say 4 soin l'sela, he doesn't have any chitim, but nevertheless you're giving him 25 sloim, you make up with him that he's going to provide you 100 so of chitim. And since he's able to get it now, so it's as if he has it already, therefore it's as if you bought it already, and therefore it's not considered schar hamtonas hamois. That's the avanos advarim. Now here we're learning that you can make a tanai with the seller that if lepel at that point in time when you're going to actually want the chitim is going to be less. So then you'll be able to buy the chitim from him at less. Whereas you're giving him now 25 sela. So the deal is that he has to give you 100 so of chitim, and even if that time 100 so of chitim is worth 100 sela, but nevertheless, since you already paid for it according to the shar, you're entitled to take from him 100 so, and that's not called rivas. But what happens if that point in time, the emes you could get for each sela, you could get 10 so, not 4 so, 10 so. So really, if you would have still had the money, you would have been able to buy 250 so. So you could make a deal that you could buy, that you could say like this: you're buying from him now 4 saw for seller. Therefore, he owes you 100 saw. But on the other end, the deal is that if lepel, by the time when you want the chitim, the chitim are going to be worth less, so then you're still entitled to take it at the lower price. And that's not called ribus, because fakir, ribus means that you give a person money, and lepel, as a result of the fact that that person had the money, so therefore you're gaining something back from him. You're getting more than you gave him. You gave him this amount of money, and he's giving you back more. But over here, it's not pshat he's giving you back more because you gave him money. At that point in time, if you would have never given him the money, you would have also been able to buy it for 250. It's not like you're getting up as an extra bonus because this person had your money and therefore you're getting something extra. You're not getting anything extra. If you wouldn't have given him the money, so right now you would have had the 25 slime and you would have been able to buy the 250 sellers. So you're saying like this: I'm giving you now the 25 slime, and the deal is that it's killed. These 25 slime are buying me 100 soim of chitim. But on the other end, I want to still retain the right that if lepel at that point in time it's worth less, I still want to be able to get it for less. That's this din. Halachei. Kiven shenigba hashar. Once it was nigba hashar, is muterloi lifsik al shara govea. Ketzad. Hoyo achitim nemkoris arba soin besela. The deal was that it was arba soin besela. Upasik imei sheyitn le hachitim keshar hazoil. He made up that he should give me the chitim according to the lower price. Im omdu achrekein eser soin besela. So in other words, if the price is later going to be not 4 soin besela, but rather eser soin besela, is noisen le eser soin. He's going to have to give him eser soin. However, omdu sholish soin besela, if the price went up on chitim, not it went down on chitim, but it went up on chitim, so then it's noisen le arba soin. Kishar shahoye b'shuk shari pasikim and kishar govea. So you can make such a deal. In those, the chiddush, the ikar chiddush that we're learning the whole time is that you could go ahead and give him money according to the shar shebeshuk, even though lepel you're going to end up getting more than what this money is going to give you. Because lepel you made up earlier, and it was since it was pasik hashar, so it's kilui like you bought it earlier. But on the other hand, but you could still retain the right to be able to get it kishara govea, which means the shara govea means you're going to get more for your money. So instead of getting 4 soim for a seller, you're going to get 10 soim for the seller. Now, nosnuli amois stam, you gave him the mois, v'lei pasik imei b'shar hagovei. You didn't make up that in the event it'll go up, the chitim will go down in value. So you'll have a right to be able to take the chitim, more chitim for that amount of money. And lepel v'huzlu, and lepel the chitim went down in value. So then it's nason like kishasha, yishavim shnosnuli amois. So then he gives him, according to the Shasha, B'Shas HaMois. In other words, lepel, the buyer is like losing. In other words, the fact that the buyer gave the money originally, so in his mind, the buyer's mind was, because he was worried that the chitim are going to go up in price, so therefore he wanted to fix the price. He wanted to make sure to have 4 sov for a seller. But lepel, the chitim went down in price. Lepel went down in price. And since he didn't make a tanai, that if it goes down in price, he'll be able to get it for the lower price. So therefore, he has to take it for the higher price, the price of how much he gave, how much it was worth when he gave the money. Now, umisha chazerbe, and let's say he has charata. Who's going to have charata in such a case? Obviously, the lekech is going to have a charata, because the mecher is very happy. The mecher is now giving 4 soin for a seller, even though be'emes he could only sell 10 soin for a seller. So the mecher is not really going to have charata. The only one that's going to have charata is the lekech. So misha chazerbe, the lekech is tiny, but lepel, I want to get 10 soin for a seller. I want to take my money back and buy 10 soy for a seller. Is mekabel mishapara, because since he gave the money, so even though it's not a kinyan, but lepel, that's the din. When you give money, so it has a din that if you want to have chayzer, so you're mekabel mishapara. Now, b'medvar mamurim that you're mekabel mishapara is only the basic al das atzmei. If a person goes ahead and buys it on his own, and he didn't specify that if it's going to go down in value, so he wants to be able to retain the right of being able to buy it at the lower price. So we say that if he wants to have charata now, so he has a mishapara. Avalim hoya shliach lacherim. If there was a shliach lacherim, bein hamecher bein halekech. Now normally you would touch bein hamecher and lekech, either the mecher or the lekech. But over here, it's not really, the mecher is not having charata, it's only the lekech having charata. So see, the Ram Ma'arach touches bein hamecher, hoya shliach lacherim, he was a shliach, and he was between the Meicher and the Lekech, Bein HaMeicher, Bein HaLekech, between the Meicher and the Lekech. Al Kopon, he was a shliach to make this deal, and basically he was a shliach to create this deal between the Meicher and the Lekech, is Ein Neitel. So Lepel, the Lekech could only be Neitel, Kishar, El Neitel, I'm sorry, the Lekech could take Kishar Azol. Oy Magzer Sadam. So the Lekech can insist, either you give it to me for 10 soy seller, Kishar Azol, or he could say that the Meicher should be Magzer Sadam. The Eine Mekabel Mishapara B'Shliach. And the Lekech is not, it's all talking about the Lekech. The Lekech is the one that wants to have Charata because the Meicher doesn't want to give it to B'Shar Azel. So obviously we're not talking about the Meicher. So the Eine Mekabel Mishapara B'Shliach. So the Lekech is not going to be Mekabel Mishapara when there was a Shliach involved. Shaharei Mishaleach Emerlei, because the Mishaleach says to the Shliach, and since you didn't specify that I should have the right Kishar Azel, and it's Pashut, that's what I wanted, and you should have specified, so therefore he has a right to insist that either you give me Kishar Azel or give me the money back. He can't insist that he gives him Kishar Azel, but he can insist that either you give me Kishar Azel or give me the money back. So if he himself made the deal, is Nachamal. If he made the deal clearly, that he wants to retain the right, that if later on it goes down in price, he should be able to buy it for the lower price. So that's the deal. That's the deal. And it's not, there's no problem of ribis because he's not gaining. It's not like the buyer is gaining something by the fact that his money was being used by someone else. Because Lepel, he could have done it even if he would have never given the money. If he didn't specify, so the din is he doesn't have a right to tiny that he wants it kishar azel. And if he has charata, he gets a mishapara. However, if it was a shliach that was the one that made the deal, so then the lekech could say to the shliach, listen, and therefore I don't want to hold by this. And if you don't want to give me kishar azel, is giving me my money back. Halacha vav. Hoyu hachitim nimkoris arbe soim besela, and v'notelas hadomim sheyitin lei chomish besela. And the deal was they should give him chomish besela. In other words, he wants to have a cheaper deal. And right now it's normal to have arbe besela, and he gave him the money, and he made up with him that he's going to give him chomish besela. Is im yesh lechitim, if the moicher has chitim, is mutter? However, hoyulich chitim choyvetz lacherim, he only had chitim etzel chaveri, v'notel hamois, at sheyig bechita v'yitin leizaser. In other words, the buyer is selling to the seller. Listen, right now the price is 4 so bechita. I'm not taking for you any chitim right now. I'm giving you money. But I want you should commit yourself that you're going to give me for 5 so for a seller. Now, so since I'm not taking it and I'm not buying it, I'm not actually taking it, so l'chor it's ribis. But on the other end, if the seller has already the chitim, so kilo is same. I'm buying the chitim which is in your possession. I'm going to pick it up later on. I'm going to pick it up in a month. But right now, the 5 saw seller became mine. So the person has the right to sell it for whatever he wants. That's not called ribis. Is the type you have the money, and then later I'm giving you money, and later on you're going to give me an item. And why are you giving me more? You're giving me more because you had use of this money for a while. That's what ribis is. Mashenkin over here, you didn't. I'm giving you the item and I'm buying it. So if you have it, so I'm buying it. So again, if you have it, let's start again. Halachavav. Hoyu achitim nimkoris arbe soim besel. The price right now is arbe soim besel, and v'notelas hadomim, and the moicher took the money. Sheyit li chomish besel, and the deal was that he's going to give him not arbe besel, he's going to give him more chomish besel. Is him yesh lechitim? If he has chitim right now, is mutter because it's a sale. It's a sale, even though there was no Maisa Kinyan, he gave him just the money, but Lepel, since he has the chitim, so it's considered a sale. However, he says, someone owes me chitim, and Lepel, right now I'm going to take the money from you, and when I collect the chitim from that person, I'll give you the chomish besela. And he took the money from the buyer, and then he will go and want the money from the chitim from that person that owes him chitim, and he will give him also sharim chusarim gvia, because lepel he doesn't have them, ukeilu einam, so it's as if it doesn't exist. So in other words, he made up a time when he's going to have to pay him, like later, and right now, why is he giving him a cheaper bill? He's buying something from him that he's going to take from him later, and lepel he's giving it to him for cheaper. Why is he giving it for cheaper? Because lepel devaila, he's going to have the money. He's going to have the money until he goes ahead and collects these chitim. So memela, it comes out an inyan of ribis. Halacha zayin. Hoyu achitim b'medina arba soim besela, ubikforim they were sheish besela. Now he's giving, obviously, if he'd give him a seller and he'd say, you're going to have to give me 4 saw, so that's Beseda. That's Yotza Ashar, he's Beseda. He's giving now a seller, even though he's not taking the 4 saw, but he's making up with him that he's going to give him 4 saw. He's giving him a seller. The shar is 4 saw besela in the Medina, but in the Kfarim you could right now get it for 6 saw besela. And he makes up with him, I'm giving you a seller, and Lepel, you're going to have the seller for a while, and then eventually you're going to bring me the 6 soin for the seller. You're going to bring me 6 soin besela. Now, basically, which means he's going to have to go to the Kfar and buy it for him, these 6 soin, and to buy it from for the seller and bring it back to him eventually. Now, why is this person willing to go ahead and schlep sich to the Kfar to bring back 6 soin for this person? So the answer is because he gave him the seller, and the Vaile, let's say he had a month or 2 months to use the seller. So l'chura, it's really an union of ribis. In other words, he gave him a seller, he lent him a seller, and lepel, he's going to go and buy for him and be terech for him to bring him back the 6 soin besela from the Kfar. But the Maisa is brought down, the Shach says that the Shat is that since this person is going to, he wants to feel like, in other words, he wants to look like a soicher. So the fact that he's going to the Kfar and buying something for someone makes him look like a soicher, and then that'll cause that they will start giving him credit. In other words, the fact that he's doing business with them, that'll help him out. So Mamela, he has a tielus from it. But we want that it should be considered that the money that the seicher, that the buyer gave him, that money is, so to speak, buying the schera. Now, how does that happen? That happens only if the achrayas of the schera is still on the lekech. In other words, if the achrayas is on the moicher, so it comes out that be'emes the lekech gave him a seller, and lepel he's giving him back sheish soin, which is right now worth more. It's worth more, and originally was worth more, and Medina was worth more. Masha'inkin, if the vart is that it's ki'ilu, he bought with the seller of the moicher. He was, with the seller of the lekech, he went ahead and bought these sheish soin in the kvar. The reason why he went to the kvar and shlepzach was because to look like a businessman. But on the other end, he's not pshat, he's giving him. He knows, he took from him a seller, and he's giving him back sheish soin. That seller that he gave him, he's buying the sheish soin. And why did he go and buy it? So that's the reason, is because he should look like a business. Then it's mutter. Again, let's go over the din. Halacha zayin. Hoyo achitim b'medina arba soin b'seller now, ubekvarim sheish b'seller. Is hariza mutter litin seller l'tager. He tells the tager, here's a seller. And what's the deal? Eventually, not right now, he'll have sheish soim min akvar, and the Vaile is going to have use of the money. But this din is only good. Knows that when he goes ahead and buys the sheish saw from the kvar, that sheish saw is hereditary b'achrayis alekech. This is him of the baderech inigdu of the lay. So what do we gain by that? What we gain by that is that it's keilu, the money of the buyer was the money that was used in order to buy these sheish saw. It's not like the buyer gave him money and now the seller is like giving him the sheish saw. That's like more of a ribis. Masha'inkin, if the vart is that the money of the buyer bought those sheish saw, how do we see that it was the money of the buyer that bought the sheish saw? V'haraya, that the achrayas of the sheish saw was on the buyer the whole time. So therefore, it's not really so ribis. The only ribis over here is the fact that he went to shlepsach to the kfar, and that we're saying that was for his interest because the Vaile is a tager. Now v'adam choshev asalas is that because there's still a certain there's a shtickle reach of ribis over here because the Vaile is giving him money and he's getting back more, and that wasn't the shar in the year. So even though Lepel, it was the shar in the kvar, and he went and bought it in the kvar, and he bought it, it was still up, and as soon as he bought it, it was b'achrayis halekeach. So it's not mamash ribis, but on the other end, there's still a stickle similarity to ribis. So Adam Choshev shouldn't do it. Now that's talking about when we're talking about Paris. Chitim. Masha'inken b'minas chera asr l'chol Adam. Warm she'ein minas chera mitzuyin tamid b'keperis. So therefore, it's considered ribis. Because what's the ribis? The ribis is I'm lending you money, and you're going and buying things in the kvarim for me. You're buying things in the kvarim for me, and the etzem fact that you're going for me to buy is because I lent you the money. Elamai, you're tiny because I want to have always business with them, but this business is not really so common. In other words, by payers, it's common to have this business. Masha'inkin over here it's not so common, and therefore it's considered ribas. Halacha ches. HaChamorim shenichnasu le'ir. The chamorim they're coming with chamerim eschera, v'ariachitim arba soim besela. And lepel right now the chitim were arba soim besela. Now hizilu they umachru lemakireim elisafsareim, the people that know them or the people that help them sell things to people. They sold it to them for chamish sela. The moish noslan tchila sheyikonsu le'ir at sheyiftuch sakeyim v'yimkuru kolechet. So it's not pshat. They could. A person's allowed to sell for him whatever price he wants. What happened was that these people came into the city, and Lepeil, these people, these Safsareim or Makireim, went ahead and gave these Chamorim money when they came into the city. They gave money when they came into the city, and these Chamorim gave these people, they gave them money when they came into the city, they gave them for a lower price than the regular price. And the regular price is Arba Soim B'Sela. So if a person gives you money, you give him back right away, Chamisha Soim B'Sela, you can do it, you're allowed to sell it to whatever price you want. The problem over here is that they gave you the money and you didn't give him back the schera. And then later on you gave him back the schera. So what happened? Why are you giving him back for a lower price? Because the Vaila, you had their money. You had their money. So Melas, you were able to use that money for whatever you needed. So l'chura, it sounds like ribis. So nevertheless, we're saying Ariza Muta. Why? Because the reason why they're selling it them for cheaper is not because they had their money. What happened was they did have their money. But Lepil, that wasn't the reason why they're selling it for cheaper. Because they paid right away, and Lepil, they get this cheira later. Because these people tell them the price, and they help them, they tell them where to go and where to sell. So these people help them. So they taka give them the money right away, and the right taka going to get later on the schera for a cheaper price. So it looks like the reason why they're getting it for a cheaper price is because their money was by these chamorim for a while without getting anything. But that's not the real reason why they're getting it at a cheaper price. They're getting it at a cheaper price because lepel, they were helping out the chamorim, and therefore that's not considered ribas. Halacha tes. Hamoilech peiris mimokim lomokim. Someone's bringing peiris pashas from a place where it's cheaper to a place where it's more expensive. Now motzi chaveri, his chaber finds it, namely, give me the peiris over here right now, where over here it's really worth cheaper. Vani alecho peiris sheyeshli beisamokim, and I'll give you the peiris. I have peiris in that other place where you want to go, so I'll give you peiris over there. You don't have to schlep the peiris. You're giving me the peiris here, and lepel, I'll give you back the peiris over there. Now lepel, over here it's worth less, and over there it's worth more. So I'm taking something for less, and I'm giving you back something which is worth more. Is azoi. Im yeshli shom, if he has taka peiris over there, so it's a sale, even though it's not a mamash sale, but it's knows I'm exchanging something of this equal things. In other words, I'm taking from you peiris for the peiris that you have over there, so that's fine. That's mutter. However, vimlav, if you don't have peiris there, so basically I'm taking you from peiris which are worth cheaper, because over here they're cheaper, and I'm going to give it back to you later when they're worth more. So that's a problem of ribis and vimlav also. Now, hoya moilech, that's this din, that's pashut. Hoya moilech schera mimokim lemokim. Amrle tnoli, you give me this schera, vani ala lechodamel k'mesheshave be'oisimokim. And I'll pay you how much, in other words, you're trying to bring this schera to a certain place, I'm going to pay you for that schera how much it's sold in that place. In other words, over here it's sold for cheaper, but I want these payers, so I'll pay it to you according to the price that it's sold over there. Is im hoisa b'shus hamecher achdagia l'shon. If the seller is the one that's his achrayis until it reaches there, so basically it's not really sold yet. It's not really sold yet because lepel the mecher is still achrayis for it is mutter, because we'll consider it as if the sale happened later. The problem of ribis is that I'm giving you money, less money now, and I'm going to take from you more money later. And the mela comes out that the violet middle you had the money of mine. And for that, I'm going to get more back later. So if I'm giving you something now, and this is completely yours, and now later on you're going to pay me for it at a higher price, so mele it comes out that that's ribis. So over here the B'shar is I'm saying I'm still achroi for it. So since I'm still achroi for it, it's not really sold. When do I stop being achroi for it? When I give it to you in that other city. So memela sells. So it's kilo, I sold it to you then. Nachamol. You give me the schera, and I'll pay you according to the price which is in that place. Now, obviously, he's not giving him the money right now. If he would give him the money right now, there was nothing to talk about. Lepel, he's buying it for a higher price. He's going to give him the money later. And he's going to still bring the schera there. So he says, Ad shetagia l'sham, if lepel, until it reaches that place, it's still bershus hamoicher, so which means it's not, the sale wasn't really a full sale, is mutter, because when he gives him the money, that's when the sale becomes full. However, if the lekech becomes the bailam on this item, so it means comes out he got an item for cheaper, and lepel is going to pay for the item later more expensive. Halacha yud hanoisin lebal agina dmei eser kishuyim elu or dmei asor avitichim elu vareim ktanim vehisna imei sheyitnum leik sheyagdilu is harei mutter. In other words, this person has in his garden, he has small melons, he has a small squash. And someone comes and he says, I'll pay you for this small squash and this small melon, which obviously right now is not worth as much as when the melon is going to be large. He's paying him now money for less money than for a large melon. And lepel, he's going to leave the melon there until the melon grows, or he's going to leave the squash there until the squash grows. So the din is, he says it's mutter. Why? So pshat is azeh. In other words, l'chure, I'm giving you a little bit money now. I'm not giving you the amount of money which the large melon is worth, the large squash is worth. He's giving him a little money, and he's lepel going to end up getting a large squash and a large melon. Why is he getting a large squash and a large melon for the little money? The answer is because he gave the money earlier, and he gave the money earlier. That person was able to use the money the whole time. So mele l'chure, he's getting a benefit from the schar amtanas hamois. So we say no. That over here, that's taka what's happening. But lepel is kilu, he bought the small melon. He bought the small squash, and his small squash is growing, and his small melon is also growing. That's the chur da havanas advarim. Even though I didn't actually make a kinyan on it, but it's kilu, I already bought it, and my item that became bigger. So mele, there's no ribus involved. There's no ribus involved. Now we had a similar situation in Periches Benegea the Pri Hapardis. We said os alach Periches alachei also liknes Pri Hapardis kedim sheigam revius bashel. Why? Because he's selling them right now for cheap, and lepel he's going to get it when it's worth more. And the reason why he's going to get it when it's worth more is because the Vaila he had the benefit of the amtonas hamois from having the mois by him. So why by the pardes there was a problem, and we say you can't do it, and by the avatichem and the kishuvim there's a problem. So on that the Rambam adds shahri manichon vehingdele mealeim. In other words, by the pardes it wasn't manichon; he has to work on it. So in Mela, so it comes out that it's not really, you're saying, I bought it and it just grew. You buy it and just grew. Lepel, it has to still be worked on. And since it has to still be worked on, so I'm paying you a little money, less money now, and I'm going to be getting something which you had to work on, and it's going to be worth more. So that's the rebus. But over here, nothing has to be worked on. The kishuyim and the diluyim are just going to grow by themselves. So it's kilo, I bought it, and you're letting me keep it here in order for it to grow. But lepel, I bought it now and it has nothing to do with you anymore. It's kilo, it's a bought item. That's first thing Rambam says. I lechuri could say maybe the fact that it's growing is not the original thing is growing, but rather there's a new growth and it's kilo, that's being added and that's yours. In other words, the growing is the lechuri, it's not this thing itself became bigger. It became bigger because it was yonik from the karka, so lechuri it's a new yonika. So in other words, you had a small watermelon, a small squash, and now it became big. So the fact that it became bigger is the addition that you're adding to me. So the answer is no, because lepel, in other words, if this squash wouldn't have been there, or if this melon would have been detached from the ground, a new watermelon, a new squash wouldn't have grown that year. That squash is that squash that became bigger. And that watermelon is that watermelon that became bigger, and therefore it's not considered I'm getting something from you. In other words, the buyer bought the squash and bought the watermelon, and his squash and his watermelon is getting bigger. V'haraya, if his squash and his watermelon wouldn't have been there wouldn't have been no growth. So maybe we say that it's his squash and his watermelon became bigger, and therefore there's no shaila of ribus. Let's read it again inside. Sharei manichon. First of all, there's two things that I'm saying why there's no ribus over here. First of all, Shari Manichon v'hengdelim yaleim. That's number one, and also the ilu kotzitz on atak sheiktanim leyoyboy machreim tachteim. So mele, what's really growing is your item which you already bought. V'chein kol ki eitzav bezeh midavar shein behesped v'leich sarna lamecha. The mecha is not losing anything by the fact that he's leaving it there and it's growing. The mecha is not losing anything because he wouldn't have had it anyways. Because lepel, if he would have detached it in it while it's small, the mecha wouldn't have had more. So it's not like the mecha is giving something away. The mecha is not giving anything away because nothing would have happened. So lepel, the fact that he's taking something which is worth more than what he paid for, is not a problem.